back to another episode of Raise 'Em Up, Chapter 6. Mm-hmm. Chapter 6 of A Grown-Up's Guide to Kids Wiring by Kathleen Edelman. And what a book.
Mm-hmm.
What
game changer.
A book.
I'm telling you.
And it really
so
is a
much.
game changer.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here going again, I had some taste of the colors, in atmospheres that helped me so much. But this book puts things in perspectives, because mine was very much, when I say a taste, I mean like a pinch of salt kind of taste compared to everything that we get in this book and all the advice that it gives to us. And it's just been cool to see, even here at the very end, I'm sitting there okay, what else can they really give to us, right?
Yeah.
And I found myself going, oh, but wait, there's more. Because this one is When Temperaments Collide. So we knew this.
Yes.
We previewed it when we ended our episode last time.
Yep.
And even so, I'm going, wow, I am so impressed with the insights that this chapter gives to us. And I think it starts out really well. There's at least a quote on page 81. And if anyone wants to talk about the Elmo story, if you relate it to it, then that's a good one. But page 81, the quotes that stood out to me, the point of this chapter is to show you that the tensions you experience with the children around you are a result of your temperament plus theirs. Every interaction you have with the child, good or bad, is the sum of both parts. I loved that, because then later on that page, it talks about how often you've said, oh, it's just bad parents, or how often you've said, oh, kids these days, right? And at the end of the day, there's this combination thing that's happening or not happening that could be feeding into why we have negative experiences with the kids in our lives.
Yeah,
I thought that was so cool.
It's good to acknowledge that, again, what are my expectations? That brings us all the way back to the beginning of the book, that expectations play a big role in our interactions with all people.
Yeah.
But especially our kids. There's an emotionally charged amount of expectations, and then they're coming from our innate wiring. So it's going to be, the collisions are going to happen.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing out that word expectations, because page 82, it brings out this, and I thought it was a really good summary of what this chapter is about. It says, your temperament plays a role in your expectations too. You've probably realized that by now. If you're blue, you expect children to use inside voices in the house because too much chaos rattles you. And I laughed out loud when I read that, because I think of just whether it's teachers or coaches that, or being a pastor, on Sunday mornings, what people expect and things like that from kids. And I just laughed because I've heard that.
Yeah.
Right? That's the first comment is inside voices or something like that. If you're green, you might expect a child to exercise a smidge of patience after asking for a snack rather than escalating quickly to volume. Definitely related. If you're a yellow, you expect your child to jump for joy when you tell them you're heading to Disney World for a week.
Yeah.
But they might not. If you're a red, you expect your students to do what they're told the first time.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it says it's not wrong for your temperament to influence your expectations in these ways, but unless a child is wired exactly as you are, and I assure you they are not, they won't always meet your expectations. I thought that was a really cool setup for the whole chapter.
Yeah, absolutely.
I definitely appreciate that, because there's some times where there's really great news that someone has given me and I don't react excited. And they're like, why aren't you excited? What's wrong? What did I do? And I was like, no, that's awesome. And they don't believe me.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm not expressive. I am expressive, but I'm not expressive. It's so funny.
You're not going to be like Uma and myself, who'd be like,
Yes.
woohoo,
Yeah.
Disney, let's start making it. This is what we're going to do. We're so excited.
Yeah.
Even though I would say Chick-fil-A, I'd be like, yeah.
I'll leave as a cookies and cream milkshake.
Right. Too funny.
Well, and because immediately, what's a blue going to do to that news? How's a red going to hear that? Wait, is that is that safe? Is that, or how does that mess with my plans of what I thought we were going to do?
When did you pick yellow?
Yeah, and I feel out of control. I wasn't expecting this. Surprises don't go over well with me, or things like that. So it's once you have that, again, this is just such a game changer. Once you have the understanding of these temperaments and how they're going to receive things, it's like, okay, I know my blue is not going to react the same way my yellow.
But it's funny, you're coming from a blue perspective, and I'm like, a red's like, why wasn't I involved? Why didn't you tell me about this? Did you already?
Are
make
you
the
sure?
Plans? Do I get to
Disneyland
choose
or Disney
anything?
World?
Yeah, exactly.
Which kingdoms?
Why didn't we go to Harry Potter World? We could have gone to Harry Potter World, right?
Yes.
So it's like so interesting how all the different colors can react to some great news, all for very different reasons. Yeah. And I love how this book brings that out.
It's funny when I see some videos of celebrations and stuff, announcement of pregnancies or things like that, like getting married, engagement, how different reactions. And now from the lens of a temperament, I'm like, that's why you're so subdued. Why some, especially with the engagement, experiences, some women are so surprised, or some are like, no, we can't do this now. You can see the different temperament.
This isn't what I expected.
Exactly.
Or like, hang on a minute, I didn't think this was.
Exactly. So it's just interesting when you put them with what's the word I'm looking for? Not shocking news, but something surprising,
unexpected.
Yeah. The different temperaments, how they interact. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
And it's funny how that can play out with kids too, though.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So like I think about that. Like think of the classic scenario of you're teaching a class. And it's a beautiful day outside, and you're like, we're gonna have class outside. Your yellows are gonna be like, praise the Lord, hallelujah, right? And your blues are gonna be like, that is not an uncomfortable environment for me to be learning.
Or what if there's a bug?
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
But the blues are thinking, they're
Yeah, so
they're processing
Oh man,
all
it makes so
the
much sense
things.
because I always take my kids out at Concordia. When it's sunny, I'm like, let's go out.
So I did the same thing. We're gonna go sit outside. It's a beautiful day. Let's go out.
Take advantage
And
of
I'm like,
the sun.
why aren't all of you so
especially
excited
in Washington
about this?
when you hardly got the
why?
sun?
funny.
Anytime the sun came out, I'm like, we're
let's
out.
go.
We're going to do experiments outside.
So
Hilarious.
with our blue and our yellows, did you relate to the Elmo story?
I missed the Elmo story, so I was doing some skimming. So tell me about it.
Oh.
So Elmo's story was this blue mom, who has a yellow child who went through an Elmo phase. So
Okay,
this is
right.
5, 6, 7, I think is what I understood.
Yes.
Loved Elmo so much, and Elmo brought the yellow so much joy
Yes.
that she went to mom and said, I want to dress as Elmo and go to all of our neighbors, knock on door to door, in order to bring them as much joy as I have, pretty much. And again, she said it differently.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah,
curious.
she just wanted to go and knock on the doors and
Yep.
have her Elmo in the stroller and
Yes,
her be
Elmo
dressed
in the stroller. Yeah.
as Elmo and go knock on the neighbors' doors and make them happy like Elmo makes her happy.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
What all goes through your blue mom mind?
The blue mom mind is like, oh, people are not going to appreciate that. That's going to be a surprise. People are not looking for. That's going to be weird. What if nobody answers the door? I don't even know. Like, I can't even.
That's,
Oh, I thought you were about to directly quote, like, I don't even know all my neighbors.
Yeah,
You're
oh,
like,
definitely. I have no idea if these are creepers,
those
and
are
here I am,
right.
like showing up with
exactly
my kids.
things
You are
this mom
quoting
said.
everything in
real?
the book.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I don't really
Yes.
even
Look,
know our neighbors.
listen to this.
Yeah,
listen to
'cause I'm
this.
like, let's
listen
go
to this.
meet our
This is
neighbors.
why
We
this is so
haven't
funny.
meet 'em.
This is what the blue mom writes. This is definitely not safe. I don't really know our neighbors. People absolutely do not want a preschooler knocking on the door in the middle of the day. How embarrassing. What if she gets kidnapped? My poor baby, they're going to slam the door in her face and be devastated.
Yeah.
Right. And while this mentalist was going on in her brain, the mom said that she had her reaction. She paused,
Yeah.
right? Thought of the why.
Yeah.
Okay. And said, sure, Avery, what a creative way to show happiness to others.
Yes.
And then what ended up happening, I thought it was beautiful. After two
houses.
doors, Avery gets bored because she's a
'Cause
yellow.
She's a yellow. Okay.
And she goes home. And
Yeah.
it was fine.
And mom went with her, stood on the driveway,
Yeah.
made
Yeah.
sure all the safe things were there.
Okay. Good job, mom. Good job, mom. See, and I'd be like, okay, how can let's make a video to send to your grandparents instead of, like,
Right.
I'd be like, how can we make this the most safe thing in the world?
And it's funny because like that's where my mind went. I was like, surely this is going to be her answer. Like, let's talk about people we do know. Maybe we can do this for
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you, mom. That's awesome. That's good.
But I think that's a good redirect. Like if you really do want to redirect, it's like, oh, I bet your grandparents and your aunts and uncles would love
Yeah.
to see a video. Let's see what their reactions are.
I don't know if our neighbors are home, but I do know that
Oh,
so-and-so
look
would
at
be looking
that.
forward to, hearing from you or would love to see your smiling face. I don't know.
Yeah. So I thought that was another great illustration and telling
Elmo.
thing. I appreciate how the chapter brings out of it, right? You're so
I'm
freaking
thinking
out.
like,
Now you're like, okay, Elmo knocking
and
on my
Elmo's a
door.
little creepy for some people too. Like I'd freak out.
You open the door and
Don't shut
Elmo's at
my
the door.
door. It's like
5-year-old
Barney or
I'm
Elmo.
getting a glimpse of sometimes the fear that Blue lives in.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
Yeah. Oh, it's fun.
I'm
It's
like,
fun.
whatever.
Right, is
It's
Tony a blue or
great.
green?
Oh,
I think
geez.
she's more green, but she's got
Okay.
blue in her too.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
That's so funny. I do appreciate this chapter bringing out to again reminding us our goal is not to fix but to coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And a coach, I love that like metaphor for even parenting because it is like looking at what you got. like as a coach, I can't change. I can teach skill, I can try and get it, but at the end of the day, you're going to work with what you have, put the best plan in place, but you can't completely transform a kid. Certainly not in a week, and often not in a season. It's going to take years to do things. So it's all about coaching, not fixing.
Right.
And I love the appreciation of the reminder of it's never too late as well.
Oh yeah.
And for me, at least, I don't know what y'all did with this, but I went into like part 2 heavy and looked at like, how do I relate, and how do I need to relate with each of the colors too.
Before I did that though, I loved that she kind of said, okay, first you need to do this. Then you need to do this. She kind of spelled it out for us pretty clearly when we're dealing with someone who's a different color. When the blue mom's got the yellow kid, right, wanting to go door to door. First, consider your expectations in light of your child's wiring, right? So, okay, no, we are not going to people's doors because that's not safe. We don't know these people, and that's just weird. Okay, but think about my kid. My kid is yellow and never meets a stranger, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. I mean, yes, you do need to let them know there are some safeguards there, but, right? And then you respond to the why rather than the what. Why is she wanting to go door to door? Well, she's happy and she wants other people to be happy and she wants to be noticed and people to see her in her cute costume and, that kind of thing. So react to the why rather than the what, and then choose words that are going to build your kid up. Validate their feelings, which is what you were saying. Hey, maybe our neighbors aren't home right now, but I bet,
somebody would appreciate
so-and-so would be excited to see Elmo. Talk to them.
And it really is a matter of like just the restraint. Just give it the pause before you respond to get to that. Because again, it's your wiring is often your knee-jerk reaction. And so when these temperaments collide, your gut is going to be like, nope. But if you can just take the pause, and I love that, the step-by-step, okay, what's not, let's not.
What's happening?
What's happening under the surface? Yeah.
The why. Why do they want to do this? And now what's going to be my response?
Yeah. And it's so helpful too, as I've been doing some of this just in day-to-day parenting, like getting to the why, like, oh, so tell me why that's important to you. I'm learning. I'm going, oh, okay, it's not about what I thought it was about. And so now I'm better equipped to find a solution that works for them and for me, because I was making wrong assumptions based on my wiring. And so by asking the question, I was able to really get at an answer that we both could agree on. They wanted, it's spirit night, let's go to Chick-fil-A. And I'm like, okay, well, we've got a different dinner plan. And so, well, what if we just got a treat from Chick-fil-A? No, we want to go to Chick-fil-A. And I'm like, okay, why do you want to go to Chick-fil-A? We want to see our friends. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's not about the food. It's about, the friend. Okay. And just shifting that perspective was like, oh, all right. Yeah, well, we can figure out a way to meet that need in a different light. And so, it's just such a good pause.
Which
for us yellows is so hard because I immediately want to be, okay, let's go. Let's go to all the friends' houses. Let's go meet all the neighbors. Because when the red is mad at me,
yes.
Or when my red is upset with me for something I've done, my immediate reaction is to go, I did not do that.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I did this instead.
I was not wrong.
I want to explain it all. Okay, that is not helpful when I'm talking to my red child. I'm just feeding her fuel.
And what's the temperament that always calls you out?
Red.
Okay,
Red.
I got one of those. And oh my gosh, she's like, no, Dad, that's not what you said. Ooh. I'm like, bro, I remember getting you and saying 6:45 we're leaving. No, you said 7 and I'm ready at 7, so let's go now. I'm like, what? I'm 15 minutes late. So anyway, he doesn't have that kind of attitude or drama, but he does pretty much gets his message across in a very red way.
Well, and that connects a little bit because like when I looked at my I was like, it's not going to help me to look at how a yellow interacts with a yellow. Like I need to see how a green interacts with a yellow, green interacts with a red.
Right.
When it came to red, like that was one of the things was like, be consistent.
Yes.
Because they're going to call you out on your inconsistencies.
Yes.
Yep.
Right. And it was so funny to read through and just see how true this is, like in so many different aspects.
Yeah.
So like, I think what would be fun is to kind of go to part 2 and see like the different ways in which and value, and particularly from so we're missing reds.
Yeah.
So we might need to like throw a bone to the reds as we go through. But that way people, as they're listening, can say, if I am a yellow, this is how I interact with all four. If I am a red, this is how I interact with all four. If I'm a blue, say so on and so forth. Instead of doing the whole like all four for the yellow, all four for the. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like
But
that.
one thing I want to add to is
Yeah.
understanding that when we're talking about what's the name of this chapter again? Before I forget.
When temperaments
temperaments
collide.
Collide. So I don't want it to seem adversarial, because I think what we have to understand is all four temperaments are valued, right?
yeah.
So when we're interacting with someone, at least from my perspective, I'm like, that is so neat, because I want to learn your temperament and why it's colliding with mine, as opposed to saying, hey, I'm comfortable in my temperament, you just need to change. Because I think that sometimes as parents, you're like, I don't know what about you or red is, but I know what a yellow looks like, so come over to my way.
Yeah.
Instead of
Yeah.
saying,
I'm in charge,
hey,
so you need to.
right,
yeah.
exactly, right? Do what I do, and
Yeah,
do
it's-
what I say, don't do what I do, kind of thing. It's
And
like,
sometimes you go, well, I'm in charge, and they need to learn the lesson
Yes.
of how to deal with people in charge. And sometimes we lean too heavily on that,
Exactly.
and we stop showing the respect by reciprocating that and learning their temperament. So yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, that's a temptation.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm on page 138.
Okay, and I'm 50-50 red blue. I'm maybe like 51-49.
Oh, cool.
So I'll do my best to answer from a red perspective.
Sure. All right. So let's start with yellows with yellows. Okay. So when your temperaments collide, there's a whole lot of energy, a whole lot of attention needed in the room, right? So its advice for you is be an active listener, right? So that means vocalizing those thoughts out loud as you do so well. Share the stage. Okay. So instead of wanting the stage for yourself, check the facts. Like that's a good one, right? Before getting too carried away by emotion or enthusiasm, help each other slow down and consider, what are the facts on this situation? Is it wise? Is it safe? That kind of a thing. Establish systems. That's an interesting one. You won't be able to rely on them to remember the rehearsal schedule or where they set down the car keys. So do your best to establish organizational systems to keep you both on track.
And look at this. If you look at each of the four, active listener, that's your green, right? Yellow, share the stage. Check the facts. Which one's that? That's
Red,
red.
yeah.
And our established systems is a blue. It's like when you're both the same temperament, you need to like set up in such
You've
a
got
way
to
that
add
you're
in those ways.
adding
So,
in those. I wonder if it's similar in some of the other temperaments. But it just goes to show, like, yeah, each temperament has blessings and gifts and
Right.
strengths.
Yeah. All right. So I'm shifting over to 188 for when you yellows interact with reds. All right. So this will help you, Jan, with your red.
I'm kind of red too, though.
Oh, fun.
So
Okay.
I've got a little bit of red in me.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah.
it says, tone down your enthusiasm. You laughed as soon as you
Because
read
I
it.
totally, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
how do you
red.
do that though?
It's my daughters will. Both of my girls are like, enough, mom.
That's so
I hear
funny.
that from my kids all the time.
All right. Number 2, not everything needs to be fun.
Yep. Yep.
Give facts. So red children are rarely persuaded with emotional arguments like, it might hurt her feelings if you don't go. Logic is your strongest weapon.
Yeah.
Use fewer words. So red children stop listening the minute they get the gist of what you're saying. If you want them to hear you, get to the point quickly. You're
So
laughing.
I live
This is
this
good.
life.
Yes.
I live this because there are so many times, and even my husband, and I'm trying to figure out which color Butch is. But he'll stand behind my red child and look at me and go,
He's either
he's
green
like
or yellow.
mouthing stop. Oh yeah.
He's either green or
Yeah,
yellow.
he might be a combination of both.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah.
you can be green and yellow,
I
but
think he's
I'm green,
green.
yeah.
I bet
yes.
he's green.
But yeah, he'll be standing behind her going like mouthing
quit it.
stop or like giving me the let it go. He's like, it's time to go. You know, just move on, Jan.
All right, going to page 236. So a blue. All right. So do you have a blue?
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
All right. So Uma, this will relate with you. Yellow's interacting with blue. All right. Avoid oversharing or
Right.
calling attention to them.
Yep.
Focus on facts and details. This is 236. Make space for their feelings. All right. Your naturally sunny attitude can make you almost allergic to others' unpleasant emotions. But a blue child doesn't want to be cheered up instantly. They crave empathy, not optimism. 4,
That's
avoid
tough.
judging a book by its cover. A blue child may be having a great time Even if they aren't smiling or bubbling with enthusiasm, they are wired to be serious or reserved, which means fun looks different on their face than yours.
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
So that related?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Awesome. All right. And then finally, us good old greens. Let's see what it has to say with us greens
288.
and yellows.
288.
288. All right. Be a cheerleader. You're wired to be an inspiring motivator. Leverage that strength when a green child could use a nudge to speak up or join in. Avoid poking fun. Be careful that your desire for humor and fun doesn't come at the expense of a green child who already tends to struggle with doubt and self-worth. Let them recharge. Your endless need for fun and people can exhaust a green child. Pay attention to nonverbal cues that suggest they've had enough, or better yet, ask them if they need a break. And number 4, stay on time and on task. Both yellows and greens tend to lose track of time and get distracted from goals. As the grown-up, try your best to keep things on track. So you have a green.
I have a green.
Yep. And was one of your others a green? Okay, there you
Urchin.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. These resonate. Tell us a little bit. I want to hear about the how you're resonating with each of these for other yellows out there.
Yeah, so the stay on time and on task one for sure, because both my green child and I tend to procrastinate and I get distracted. So she's procrastinating and I'm distracted, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh my goodness, we got to get XYZ done, and then we're all both not flying on best cylinders trying to get everything done. The let them recharge. Yeah, it's my green likes to do, but she needs time.
Sure.
Right. And sometimes I forget that, because the times that she does want to do, I feed into that and get excited about that. And I forget, oh wait, she's got to have time to recharge her batteries, or
Absolutely.
it's not going to end well. The be a cheerleader, that's kind of funny, because when my green child is an athlete, I am not allowed to cheer for her
Interesting.
on the court. I can cheer for other people. Like, it's totally okay. And I can, limited things, but we learned very early on that I'm not allowed. It doesn't, she doesn't accept it well. It
Sure.
doesn't.
Well, you notice what it says though, right? A green child could use a nudge
Yeah.
to speak up or join in, right? So it's particularly she's going to need that encouragement to do something.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's that kind of cheerleader,
Not
not
the vocal
necessarily the
cheerleader.
vocal, loud, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
but seeing something and saying something. Yeah,
Oh, for
absolutely.
sure.
Yeah.
And Uma, how about you?
I think the staying on task, definitely, with both my green kiddos. Humor. Yeah, that one definitely struggles with, for sure.
Sure.
Let them recharge is so true, man. When they come home, even on the drive home, you don't want to talk about the day.
Yeah.
Yep.
But when they're ready, they will just nonstop talking to you. They will sit down and talk to you for half an hour, but it has to be on their timetable.
Sure. Absolutely.
It can be something, and as a parent, like a yellow, I like, how's your day? And I always get the same answer, mid, and then, and then I try to be more specific. I'm like, so how was class, or how was your, practice, and mid. And so now I'm just like, I say it, how's your day? Not for his sake, just for my sake. Because I'm not going to have
temperature check?
silence, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to have
I was going
silence.
to say, I'm sitting there thinking of Uma, driving down the road, and I don't have any other car to talk to right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And then all of a sudden your kid gets in the car and you're like, finally, someone to talk to. And then they don't want to talk because they've just been around people.
Yeah.
And they need the quiet and the silence.
Yeah.
So I just say it, and then I'm quiet for the rest of the ride. It's not a long ride. It's like 15 minutes home.
Yeah.
And then when they get home, the last thing I do is talk about chores, because that's what I want to do. But that's the last thing I do. Instead, let whatever he does, and then when he comes back down, that's when I said, okay, here are things that need to be done, and set the expectation still. But then he would talk about dinner and other stuff. So it's
Yeah.
The poking fun, I think maybe my children just had to learn I am so sarcastic, and so they get it, and we're all sarcastic now. I don't know if that's a learned behavior though.
Sure.
I probably taught them that.
But I think it's interesting because my boys who are green can handle sarcasm and stuff, but there are certain things that I would not even venture about.
Sure.
And those are areas where they have doubts and self-worth struggles. So with one of my kiddos, weight is an issue, right? So that's something that we don't Not that I
Yeah.
do, but I'm just saying
Right.
I got to be sensitive to stuff like that.
Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah, and they don't like being compared. Like one of the pet peeves for all three of my boys is don't talk to me and say this is what my brother did.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
My grandma was great at that.
Yeah.
For her kids. Like I got to do my grandma's funeral, and it was so funny talking to each of them, because it was then in my conversations that I learned the same conversation she had with each of them about each other, she was having with the others.
Oh,
So
my
like they all thought so-and-so was the favorite, but everyone thought it was a different favorite. So it's like grandma had a system. It was so
my
funny.
gosh, that's wild.
So funny. So funny. All right, let's go to reds. Okay, so reds, so back on 139.
Okay.
Reds interacting with yellows. Okay. Resist the urge to multitask.
Yeah.
A sanguine stories can be wordy. Yellows, you may be tempted to knock out a task or two while you half-heartedly listen, but they deeply crave your undivided attention and eye contact. To let them make their own decisions. They'll show off their sparkle if you let them choose things for themselves. Tone down your volume. The most effective way to get them to moderate their volume is to moderate yours. Relax and have fun. At least try to.
Think of it as an item to do on your to-do list.
There you go. That's awesome.
Okay, I need to have fun.
All right, I have
Get in
to
the
have fun
mindset.
with this group. in order-
That's hilarious. That's so
wow.
funny. And yet I can totally see, like
Yes.
I recognize being pretty task oriented, both for the blue and the red, but that I need to set aside time to have fun with my kids, because otherwise I will find 27 other things that are bothering me that need to get done. And then at the end of the night, I'm like, why didn't I spend, then I'm kicking myself. Like I missed out on this time. So I do need to kind of treat it as a to-do list because it does matter to me. And it's really good.
I love how it finishes that it says put on your to-do list, because it may not feel productive at the time, but it will have a huge relational payoff.
Oh, it totally does. Yeah, it totally
And that
does.
speaks to a red's need for like purpose and accomplishing a goal. All right, reds with reds, page 189.
Oh my gosh.
I like number one.
Prepare for battle.
May feel like a daily fight to prove who is the adult, though you'll be inclined to power up. Instead, pause. Then show curiosity and interest. It'll be more effective.
That is so true.
So
because
my red comes out with my red.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay,
Big
good.
time. Big time.
My red comes out with other reds too, and
it's awful. And like it really
Yeah, it didn't end well. It
Wow.
never ends well.
I
when
feel
we're-
out and outside of here because all of you guys have red.
some.
as-
Yeah. And it's
That's
crazy
mine too.
because
Yeah.
like they signal with tone and volume.
Yeah.
And so do we. And so then it just, and
Mine comes out in coaching, right? So when I see a red going the wrong way, like they're super hypercritical of everybody else around them. And
Yeah.
so like my red comes out, I was like, oh, time to humble the humbler.
Yeah, right. Yep.
And then
Yeah,
so it's good to pause, right? And that's what I've learned to do, right? I've learned to pause. What do they need right now? Things feel out of control. They need credit for the work that they're doing, right? Asking these questions.
Yes.
And it's definitely the better way to actually get what I want out of
It's
it.
so true because even last week, our last game, my red was getting frustrated because they took like 10 shots and nothing was going to go. And they're like, I keep shooting. And I'm just keep. And then I said, hey, you had 3 great passes that led to goals. You're doing great
there
stuff.
you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the next play, he scored.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and it's
it was
just a
just
way to-
redirecting him and saying, don't worry about the misses. You're doing some great stuff.
And I've
Yeah.
seen this in the coaching world. When a red goes off on a red, the emotional or relational
It's lost.
is gone.
Yeah.
Like,
Because
you
of that
completely
loyalty.
lose 'em.
Yeah.
Yeah, the loyalty, good.
Yep.
And that again, they need credit. They were doing good things for the team. They just were using their words in a way that
Yep.
tore down the team.
Yep.
And good. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm even remembering back to the last game of one of my players in basketball last season. And his last game and his attitude, he was just tearing everybody down. And I told him, I said, I know you want to get back in that game. Goal. I was like, here's what I need from you. I need 5 minutes where you're not saying critical things of your teammates. I need you to be encouraging and positive. And when I hear that from you, I will get you back in this game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, but it wasn't yelling at him. I'd been up the whole season, that wouldn't work. It wasn't going toe to toe. The battle just wasn't going to work.
And trying not to pull rank is incredibly
Yes.
hard
Good.
for a red with another red. because the adult in you and the need for control in you that's innate in your wiring is going to want to silence the, the problem, the conflict, the disobedience, or whatever it might be. But pulling rank is just going to continue that adversarial piece. And so you almost have to go against your red instincts when dealing with a red child who's trying to pull rank on you.
And I love what it says here, right? Yeah. Seek their input whenever possible, even when it won't ultimately change your decision. Allow them to be a part of the discussion.
So true.
So helpful. It diffuses so much because they just want to be heard and they want to know that you're thinking through the problem.
Right.
Because that gives them a sense of security.
And when you're doing the choices, so I'll use the same child again. They want to play different positions, right? And I'm like, here's what you got to know. You are gifted to play in this position. You could play another position, but then you are not going to be able to be successful because you're not replaceable. There's no one else that can play a position. It's like, oh yeah,
giving that value.
touches on me.
See, yellows see that unique gifting in other people. It's good job. Good job.
Way to go, yellows.
I love it.
Number 3, redirect towards solutions. You're both skilled debaters. Discussions may drag way past the point of being productive.
Oh, goodness, yes.
Steer toward resolution and to avoid getting stuck in endless arguments. Number 4, give them opportunities to choose and make decisions. Sure, you could, and let's be honest, would be happy to make every decision. That makes it an even more meaningful gift when you let your red child decide. So even
cool.
especially easy ones, right? Where are we eating tonight? Chick-fil-A or Panda?
Yeah.
Right? What are we cooking for dinner tonight? Right? These are my 2. Right? Give them the choices and then let them pick.
This was huge with my red son because it was all about food. If I'm making something, he's really not in the mood for it, and we fought and fought, and we're like, this is what we're making for dinner, and you eat it, and and like, sorry, you figure it out, and you got to try it even if you don't like it, and like all those fights that you think are the right way of doing things. And lately, I've just been like, okay, what choice are you going to make? What's a healthy thing that you're willing to make for yourself? Because this is what I made for dinner and I don't have time to make something else, and he'll say, okay, can I put this in the microwave, or can I make a piece of toast with peanut butter? And I'm like, whatever, and I'm like, okay, yeah, what fruits and vegetables are you going to add to that? And he makes the choices. And I'm not pulling rank. I'm letting him have some choice, but I'm also not taking on more work.
You're not cooking it,
right?
You're not making a completely different meal, and he's having something healthy.
Yes,
it's giving him some agency there.
He gets the agency, he gets the choice, and he's not forced to do something he really doesn't want to do. And then I'm not, trying to pick up the pieces or. Set him at the table for an hour while he's crying. It's a different kind of battle. Like you realize, like with some kids, you do need to encourage them to try new things. And there's a time for some of that pushing and encouraging, but you can give them a win sometimes, and it really is a benefit.
I can see this in extracurriculars, choices, right?
Yep.
And you might, as a red, see they're beating themselves up, working too hard, blah, 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 blah. And so you say, no, I think it's wonderful. You have so many skills to be able to do so many different things, but I'm going to need you to narrow this down to 2 things, right?
Yep,
or when it comes to sports, I always encourage one sport at a time, but just being able to give them the agency to choose which one will that be, which one's going to get your focus and your attention so that other things, I'm being able to point that out. All right, page 237. So reds with blues, all right, red with blue children. Go out of your way to encourage them. Encourage blues. It goes back to that whole support. Yeah. Blues need support. They need to know you're there.
Yep.
Be patient. You may feel like their slower pace is unproductive, but remember, they're wired for planning, problem solving, and perfection. While you're aiming for done, they're aiming for excellence. Don't add fuel to the fire. Blue children are already so hard on themselves. Yep. When they don't meet your expectations, remember they're more upset about it than you are.
Absolutely.
Number 4, see their sensitivity as a strength. They're attuned to emotion. You are intolerant of emotion. Be careful not to criticize one of their greatest strengths just because you can't relate.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
Huge. I mean, all of this is, and as a person who's in the middle of both, I can see both sides of this big time. The patience. A blue can be incredibly slow to share or to work on things. And the lack of patience just prolongs the stress for a blue. And I appreciate and need the third reminder, don't add fuel to the fire, because I feel it deeply when things are not going well, and it's not always easy to see it on a blue's face or, in a blue's body language. Like, do they realize that this is a big deal? And I need to be reminded that, oh yeah,
They do.
they do. They might not be showing it as outwardly as a red or a yellow, right? Who are more expressive outwardly. But I don't need to explain all the reasons why that was a bad choice.
Absolutely.
Every time, right?
Yeah.
Like
They've probably already got that
they-
list in their heads
Yep.
or in their journals. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So that's a good one for me because I can remember there, some specific conversations growing up, and the blue in me is just really like, woof, yeah, that was really hard. And yet now as I think about myself as a parent and the red in me comes out, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so guilty of doing that. I'm so guilty of it.
So as a parent, do you see yourself leaning more towards red than your blue side?
I think the red comes out more because as a parent, you are generally seeking the control of the chaos and the direction and the tasks, especially in this season of life where the kids are getting into homework and daily routines and there's the schedules. And so I do see it. And then my red son brings out my red. So I probably at home tend to be a whole lot more red than blue.
And you share the same thing. You get red when you're
With your red kid, yeah.
Because I'm trying to see what do I become more, my yellow, my green, and I think my yellow comes out more.
Mm-hmm.
But there are times like I'm trying to see why we butt heads though, because it's not really a yellows.
Do you have an instance where you butted heads?
Oftentimes when it comes to getting them on task.
So I think that means you actually have red. So
Okay.
Or it's just the parenting side.
I was
you
gonna
know?
say
Yeah.
maybe
I,
it's just
I
that-
think, just being a parent,
Right.
you have to, in some points, you have to.
well, I think if you're living in that yellow,
have to do
right,
this.
and you're going to gravitate typically toward one or the other. Like
I do
next
know
to
I'm
you.
vocal. I'm
Yeah.
not sitting there and just letting it happen, right? I think yellow being an extrovert, I am going to call it out. I'm going to say, hey, you got to get your stuff together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So, yeah, that's interesting because as I was listening to you both from your parenting style, how the red was more prominent.
Sure. All right. Reds with. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that last one. See their sensitivity as a strength. A red will have a tendency to it's emotion, just get over it. That kind of attitude, and a blue is gonna hate their emotions
Yeah.
unless they're encouraged that it's a gift from God.
Sure.
And they're shown how to use them to bless other people and to take care of their own emotions too. So this is an area where it's like you if you feel like sensitivity is a weakness, you need to change your mind about it in order to be the best possible caregiver for your blue. Because they're always going to feel, and they're either going to feel bad about their feeling or they're going to have healthy reactions to the fact that they feel deeply.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, greens 289. So reds going to greens. Dial down your intensity and speed. Okay, so try and move at their pace. It'll go better for you. Motivate their way, not yours. So a green child's more motivated by support and encouragement than threats and challenges.
Yup.
Solicit their opinions and ideas. In the face of your decisiveness, a green child will not proactively speak up, especially if they disagree with you. Try and pause and ask for their thoughts. Help them discover their interest. If you want to get a green child moving, find what interests them. It's often just one or two things.
Yeah.
Which I'm curious that like any of the time it's a green too is if you can just hijack a way for them to be helpful, you're typically going to motivate them. Like, so if you can just find a way to communicate, this would be really helpful if you did this for me, or if you did it this way and blah, 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 blah.
I think it depends with my green kid. It depends. I mean, if it's something that she does want to keep the peace and she does want everything to be calm, but I don't know that she always wants to.
She may not always be in the mood to be
helpful.
Yeah, to do those
Interesting.
things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or in what I would think is helpful.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. But the discovering their interests and what interests them, they are
Yeah.
motivated for.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
she is totally
yeah.
gonna
well, that's
whatever.
true. Like if you
But
ask,
if it's something that's
if you
she's
ask
not
a green to be
interested in,
helpful at a task they're not good at,
Yeah.
They know I'm not contributing well to this.
Or
Yeah.
when they're like already overwhelmed and they haven't had a chance to
I
recharge.
think that's probably, yeah.
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 They've got all the other things. Thinking of like a student, right? A kid that's a student, like a high school student or college student. They've got all this other stuff that they're having to work on, and some of it has been procrastinated, right?
sure.
And then we're trying to get all these things done, and then you want me to help with something else?
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting point because even in my own green self, I'm always willing to try stuff. But if I know I'm not good at it, if I'm not gifted, for example, work camp, doing some of that stuff, it's not within my skill sets. I'm going to find different ways to contribute without actually creating a poor product, if that makes sense. Like
sure.
without, and I think greens are sensitive to that. Like it's not that they don't want to be challenged, but sometimes part of their nature is like, I'm not good at it, so why should I?
The people pleasing and the pragmatic, like it doesn't make sense for me to
Exactly.
do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at the same time, I think a green will find like they're going to more actively seek a way to
Yes.
be like and contribute
Exactly.
in something.
They're not just going to stand as a bystander, but they may not necessarily do the specific task.
Yeah.
Right.
you
Exactly.
want.
Yeah.
I really like the motivate their way, not yours.
Yes.
Like, cause I think about my green daughter, you know, sometimes in the pursuit of harmony, I'll say, okay, it's this or nothing, you know, and she'll respond and she'll do it. That kind of threat mentality or consequence. But sometimes with her being green, I'll be like, okay, it's this or nothing. She's like, fine. I figured it would be nothing. And okay. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, are you serious? You know, and then the red in me is like, oh, are you sure
Challenge
about that?
accepted.
You know? And then she's like, yeah, and I'm sure I'll be grounded forever. And like, she just kind of like goes on this way, and I'm cracking up on the inside, but I'm like, oh yeah, like this is not gonna work. You know, what I thought would be an easy, like, hey, do you want to be able to watch shows later? Let's get this cleaned up now. And she's like, nope.
That's super fair.
So it was
There's
like,
a
okay.
sense of stubbornness, right?
Yeah, it's the
Oh, yeah.
stubbornness, and
And
it's,
that's the
I'm
green,
not
yeah.
interested. I'm, you know, if the motivation's not coming from her,
Very much a bless your
it ain't
heart.
gonna-
You think
Yes,
that's going to
exactly.
motivate
Yep.
me?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
it's hilarious. And she's blue green then, you know, so then we're hearing about it, you know. It was an amazing, oh gosh, a fly on the wall a week or so ago would have been a really fun.
All right, let's see how blues interact with these different colors. So our blue parents. So blue with the yellow. In the invitations here, limit your words. So details are important to you, but
Yes.
a yellow child will tune them out and you.
That's me.
Lean into their optimism. They can find the bright side of almost anything. When you find yourself dwelling on the bad or sad news, let them cheer you up. Celebrate your differences. Their wiring is opposite of yours. When this causes tension, choose to be grateful for what you can learn from each other. And give them outlets for their energy. Your need for space and silence is likely to be overwhelmed by their volume, restlessness, and desire for constant company. Try to proactively solve this problem by teaching them that they can be loud outside, or you like hugs before bedtime. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, it's so important. And I'm struggling. Like, we have a small backyard and our house is very open, and so I'm like, there's not a whole lot of place for my red and my yellow, you know, to go. But the beautiful piece of like, recognize you have a lot of extra energy, don't you? Okay, what can we do that would help get out
Sure.
that energy? We'll put on a song you can dance, you know, or whatever. So just being aware that like they need to get it out as much as I need space and silence is a good thing.
I just realized that blue teachers were the ones I struggle the most with.
Oh, I'm
sure.
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
The details always got me. It's like, really?
And the limit your words. Yeah. Because
Yes.
that blue needs to be understood.
Mhm.
And a yellow is not going to listen that long.
Yep.
They don't need that much explanation.
Well, actually, I'm sitting there thinking of like, for email's sake, for the blues, because the blues are the most vocal
Detail.
about not having information, blues
Yeah.
and reds. And then I'm sure yellows get like a super long email and like, please.
I don't even read half of it. It's gone.
I read the topic. I read the first two lines,
This
and I'm
seems
like,
important
this
to
is
me.
boring.
Okay, now I'm done.
And that's why like
I feel
bold
bad.
things and underline them.
Yep. Yeah, because I'm like, I know
'Cause I
people are
know
not going to
some
want to
people are
read this.
just gonna see
and
Better
just
be at the
need it
front.
to be.
Put it
Oh,
at the
that's
top.
so interesting.
If you don't catch me in the first 3 lines, I'm not reading the rest of
Okay.
the email.
at the
Oh,
Well,
that's true because y'all are
I said I
reading your,
miss all the
y'all are reading your
details.
emails in your phones too, aren't you? You're never looking on the computer.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I quit. I'm the culprit here. Oh my God.
That's so
Oh
funny.
my gosh.
All right, let's see about Blues with Reds. So don't take it personally. Their tendency to argue and challenge is not a reflection on you, your intelligence, or your competency. Give them space and freedom to make decisions.
Yep.
Yep.
Red children insist on doing things their way, which will sometimes conflict with the right way, in your opinion. When the stakes are low, let them give it a try. I love
Yes.
that. When the
Yeah.
stakes are low,
Yeah.
absolutely. Go right ahead. Bless your heart.
My son has
okay?
been wearing mismatched shoes for 2 years.
Provide
Go for it.
opportunities for them to have some control. Look for occasions when you can safely let them be in charge,
Mm-hmm.
but be forewarned, you may also have to keep your perfectionism in check.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then keep communication short and to the point. Skip the supporting details unless they push you to prove your point. The shorter, the better. So with yellows and reds, both. Keep those details as short as you can. No, that's good to know.
Yeah. That's all good. Don't take it personally. That's huge.
All right, Blues with Blues, don't transfer your fear and worry onto them.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Even though you share the same wiring, you have different life experiences. Allow them to make up their mind rather than inheriting your views, fears, or worries.
Yeah. They have enough of their own.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Use criticism and correction gently. You know the toll harsh words can take on a blue child who is already so hard on themselves, so speak gently. And make room for mistakes.
Yeah.
Disconnect your affection from their achievement so it's
Yes.
not implied that they are unworthy or unloved when they make mistakes.
Yep.
Because they're human beings and they will.
Yep. Absolutely. There's so much here where they're already overloaded with sensitivity, emotion, concern, worry. And again, as a blue, I want to be understood. And so I'm like, well, do they understand how big a deal this really is? Yes,
Yeah.
they do. Yes.
There's one more on the back page to prepare them,
good
don't
call.
scare them.
Ooh,
Oh, sure.
yes. I like that a lot. Teach them how to cope with rather than be controlled by
Exactly.
anxious thoughts, and leverage their natural problem solving skills with questions like, what's your plan B? Yes. Okay. That's huge.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what you're thinking about. I'll ask my green blue daughter, like, okay, we have some things we need to accomplish. Let's make a schedule, and then, okay, well, what if we run out of time here? Where would you like to put this activity instead? And then she's got it, and she feels like in control, and she has enough alone time. She's got her, recharge and things like that. And then, what could we do differently next time? Oh man, that math problem, was really tricky. That whole, you did the whole worksheet, and then there was, something that we ended up having to redo the whole sheet. What could we do differently next time so that we take a look at a couple at a time, and then we can come back and you can finish it. So all of that preparation, solutions, and definitely disconnecting the achievement and affection. That's all huge. All huge.
Awesome. All right, let's look at Blues with Greens. Be kind in your criticism. Leave out unnecessary details. Man, it is really
What is with the
asking a
extra
lot.
details?
It's
I know.
asking a lot.
Don't nag or lecture.
Don't nag or lecture.
Yes.
So Greens do not aim for expectation or aim for or expect perfection like you do. Nagging or lecturing will not change this. It will only trigger resentment. And then watch your moods. To an agreeable green child, your tendency toward moodiness can feel controlling as they constantly adjust to your emotional state, and they will start to shut down. Interesting.
Yeah, number 3, don't nag or lecture. Yeah.
Yeah. The watch your moods is interesting because you and as a blue might be just going through life, but the green is going to sense
feeling
that
it.
something's there, and
Yeah.
a kid will often internalize that and say, I did something. And,
Absolutely.
And so for, when one time I was in the car driving, and my daughter, who's all the way in the back seat, goes, Mom, are you sad? And, why is your face doing that? Well, because my face does a lot of things. And I was like, what? Oh no, I was thinking about something sad, but it wasn't, no, I'm really okay. And she's like, oh, okay. And then she was fine. But the fact that she said it, I was like, oh my gosh, like how much is she internalizing what I'm doing that has absolutely nothing to do with her, but she's very perceptive. So it's always good to make sure when you have that affection for your kid, or like when something's good, or give as many compliments, right? Fill up that tank. Do as many of the words that are used as blessings, as gifts to your kids, especially some of these blue-green kiddos who are extra sensitive.
Absolutely. All right, we got one more color. They always leave us for last. So greens.
Green is last.
Just sense some resentment there.
Greens with yellows. That's the red in me. State expectations so clearly they know what's required. Okay, so good. It's similar to blues in the sense of like keep the details shorter. Show enthusiasm with your body language. It even recommends jazz hands at times. I thought that was hilarious. Because I get accused all the time of well, Uma will do it to me all the time. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Is everything okay? And it's just because of whatever look is on my face. I don't express emotions and greens don't. So a yellow is always something's wrong. Similar to the green asking of the blue. Verbalize your affection and love. So we always have thoughts and great things to say. It's basically just saying, say them out loud, right? For a yellow needs to hear it. And then try to appreciate and find joy in their energy, right? When they're ready for the next adventure and you're ready for a nap, try to be delighted rather than overwhelmed by their zest for life. I thought that was good. Greens with reds, try to stay calm. And I think that's our superpower as greens, actually, is staying calm for reds, because reds are why are they not reacting? I need a reaction out of them. Advocate for yourself and your ideas. It won't occur to a red child to ask for your opinion or consider your feelings, so you got to do it. Try not to let their strong will overwhelm you. And this is going to that whole, supposedly greens are just don't like conflict. And I'm conflict's great. But I think that's because I was taught since I was a kid that conflict is a good thing. Conflict means you're living. Conflict is an opportunity to work through something, that kind of a thing. But it says for the greens out there, reds being so combative, you may have to work hard to find harmony and lack the stress that you need. And then I loved it number 4 because it speaks so true to the reds.
So hard for me.
We talked about it earlier.
Is so hard.
Stay consistent with rules, discipline, and punishment.
Kids call me out all the time on that.
Yeah, red children will push the boundaries in search of safety and structure. Backing down or letting things slide will only make them push harder.
Yeah.
Woof. I feel seen. That's a tough one. All right, greens with blues. Avoid becoming emotional Velcro. That's so good for us to know too. So you're wired to accommodate and adjust to others' moods, but guard against being dragged up and down too much by a blues emotions. Because again, if you want harmony, and you just can't fix. It's a really, really important message for greens. You can't fix it when someone is going through a tough time.
And it's okay for them to have those feels.
Exactly.
You don't have to take those feels away.
Exactly.
But the green is wanting to, go in and just
harmony,
make it.
See, and that's the thing that I think I
them.
struggle so much personally as a yellow-green is I want harmony, but I also want energy.
Positivity, optimism.
Right. So when someone doesn't give that back to me, it's what did I do wrong now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or the green in you is going to be okay, what do I try next to fix it?
Yes.
Right. Where versus a yellow would probably, a straight yellow would just go all right, we're done.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, move on.
and they go find someone else that's optimistic because this isn't working.
This is draining me, right?
This is too much. You feel your feels. I'm going to go.
Greens with blues, we're asked to pay attention to the details. So you may not like them, but a melancholic child will feel prepared and empowered if you pay attention to those details and give them. And I've certainly used it. That's why I write detailed emails. Okay. Model patience and contentment. Your wiring can help a blue child learn how to be patient with themselves and content with the world, even when things aren't perfect.
Love that.
Speak up when they shut down, right? So this invitation, again, they're going to want to be in silence, want to go away, but what they need in the moment is actually that support.
This is so funny. Pay attention to details. And the only reason I bring it up because it just hit me so hard. I'm leading a bunch of high school students to lead Bible study.
Yeah.
And my blues require so much. And I'm this is boring me out to create all this information, but that's what they need.
It helps them so much. Well, and that's why even
so it makes sense now.
In my teaching, seriously, this past fall we had, I want to be more comfortable with the Bible. And I had a handout every time because I know, especially in our congregation, there's a lot of blues and a lot of greens.
Yeah.
And for my reds, they want to see where we're going, right? My yellows just want to draw, okay? Yeah. So and I know that even in confirmation churches, right, I will have some sort of handout or activity. I make sure to have a service guide because I know because of people's wiring, it helps them to feel more comfortable with what is happening in the time that we have together. And especially knowing confirmation church, that's an hour. And then you have parent time afterward. Even my parent time, I know I have a handout because I know how people are wired. And even in the services for confirmation church, you have the visuals on the screens because you know how the yellows, I'll look at that. That's short. That's bite-sized. It's not details. Right? You
That's
use
so
all
neat
of
because
it.
you can see, like when I give skippers the worksheet for crew night, the yellows don't even pick it up. They're like, we're going to do our own thing. Then the blues and red want all the information. And that is, wow. Okay.
Yeah. It helps. It helps so much.
Yeah.
All right. Then greens with greens. Lead the way in uncomfortable conversations. So you recognize when there's conflict or when something is wrong. You as the adult have to lead to have the conversation because your child's not going to want to have it. Embrace the extra work. So supporting a child's interests will likely mean extra work for you. You may have to give them rides, manage schedules, agree, even be their coach. Try to rise to the occasion when required, which I think a green embraces.
Yeah.
Like, again, I can be helpful and contribute. Create structure and stick to it. So establishing routines will help you to create the chaos-free environment a green child craves without ongoing effort needed from you. So similar to the yellow advice when it came to greens there. And then make sure your feedback is consistent. You know firsthand how much a green child wants to avoid disappointing anyone else. Make sure you're on the same page as their parent, teachers, coaches to avoid giving them conflicting information and put them in a no-win situation. I thought that was good too.
Guys, seriously, this
And
book,
this is gold
so
mine.
many
It's good stuff.
things.
I
And
mean, it
there's
really
so much,
is.
you know?
There is so much. Like, even it's so funny. Like, we started with yellows and we were so quick, and then reds we really dove into, and then blues dove into, and then greens. Like, it's so interesting. There's so many different aspects, and I hope for our listeners out there, you really are hearing how you can use this in every aspect of your life, because it's definitely, this book is about wiring for kids. But it totally works in adult situations too. You're going to see people's red come out. You're going to notice someone's blue or someone's green, like in their details or in their reservedness or no reactions to anything. You can't miss a yellow in somebody, right? So, so being able to appreciate that about each person, and for me at least, going back to those core needs and signals things. So I know I want to talk about that in our next episode for sure.
Yeah, there's just a lot there, and each one is beautiful and good.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yeah, and the way God designed
That's
them.
right.
Yeah.
God made us that
Right.
way. And
So
God
when
made
you-
your child that way. And God put you together intentionally. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not random that
Right.
we are the
Right.
parents to the children that we have. It's not random that you are coaches to the kids on your team. It's not random that a teacher has those kids in her classroom. I mean, God has a plan for all of that. And he created us the way we are
Yep.
Yep.
to meet the needs of those kids. And sometimes we may need a little guidance and help with that.
Right.
But he
Right.
equipped us
Exactly.
with the things that we need.
And I think when you think about, wirings, temperaments, kids, how we as the parents together, how are we communicating that consistently? Because me and my spouse don't have the same temperament,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So how do you navigate that so that if my spouse who's more blue
Yeah. How do you be an effective
and I'm a
team?
yellow, how do we then, because she sees things I don't see.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
And she's such a better parent in certain areas. And I'm like, okay.
Well, and then what
And
great,
so we do the baton hand. Okay, now it's my turn.
and not
And
just
it's
as
your turn.
not just as parents, right? Especially for those households that are single parenting right now, but the other adults that you have in your life.
Exactly.
Seeing the gifts that your kid's teacher this year, like in every year, you're probably going to get a different temperament in a teacher. So they might have different insights or different ways
Right.
to use it. Their coaches, other
Yeah.
mentors in their lives, like we think like small group leaders or
Right.
something like that. So every single bit is going to be resources available at your fingertips. You don't have to do it by yourself.
Yeah.
I think, so I asked my son, my oldest son, I just said, like, who's been your favorite teacher? Just kind of
yeah.
tying the temperament. And he brought up his 8th grade teacher who is phenomenal and his 1st grade teacher. And both of them have very similar characteristics. They're both very much in tune with his quirkiness.
Huh.
Oh.
They embraced his quirkiness. They
saw him.
encouraged
Yeah.
his quirkiness. They made him feel normal for being who he was.
Love that. Yeah.
Where a lot of other teachers would see his gifts and his talents and kind of box him in there.
Sure.
These two teachers were intentional in building a relationship with him and embraced who he was. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
how cool of a teacher. And I mean, they're phenomenal. I mean, I look up to them myself. But yeah, it was interesting just asking your kids questions. You'll learn a little bit more about their temperament too,
Yeah.
as to who they gravitate to, who the adults outside of you. that
Yeah.
they
Who's filling
gravitate.
their tank?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've laid some great groundwork for our final episode this season that will happen next time.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, keep talking about it, keep having the conversation, share this episode, certainly subscribe on whatever platforms you're listening to or watching from, things like that. And looking forward to next time and being able to wrap up this journey, a grown-up's guide to kids wiring. Fantastic resource that I can see making such an impact in anyone's life as they really embrace the concepts behind it. And what you were kind of talking about was just acknowledging when you try and fix or fight this stuff, you're fighting what God has designed and how they're wired. So why don't you roll with the big guy and honor and respect what he's done and use those gifts that he's had for you. But we'll see you next time as we close out this season.